Thank you, Richard Bensley, joining us now live from Norwich, England. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Kai. How are you?
Doing fine, and I'm noted that you got scored highly for having a fun and productive presentation up on Zulit. So that's great. And good to you're working for the MariaDB Corporation, so I suppose you don't get all that exposed to the community, do you?
Oh, actually, quite the opposite, Kai. I mean, I originally got involved with my school years ago, 15 years ago, thanks to user groups. And of course, as MariaDB came along, I moved into those. And in fact, on the corporate side, you might find in your city or town or wherever you are in the world, you might find that the corporate side, we might actually run your user group. Generally, that just involves all the lovely salespeople and things coming along, putting us in a big room full of beer and pizza, and letting us talk about databases all night. So yeah, you might find that we're still very much around, and it's how a lot of us got started in the community.
Well, last time I went to London to a meetup, it was Federico Razzoli hosting it.
It was indeed. Unfortunately, he has recently moved to Edinburgh. Louisa, on our corporate team, currently runs our London group. We had a really good time under Federico's leadership and companionship. You were missed greatly, and he's got a talk later on today, also yes, covering more of Connect Engine. I hope to see him again soon.
So good to hear that London is continuing then. So going to your talk, it was fun, but it was also a bit of, I saw a bit of complexity there, and I'm worried if you start using all kinds of nice little semi-ludicrous features there, isn't it going to be a maintenance nightmare?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You can introduce a mountain of complexity into any relational database management system. I always encourage people to read the fine manual. There is a wealth of information inside there, and everything I found that I demoed and talked about today was due to me just reading the manual and finding out what's going on. Change management and communicating change is so important. If any of our customers have had experience with the support or DBA teams, you'll know that 90% of what they do is communication. You have to set your goals, make sure everyone understands, demo features and talk about, clearly show what you're doing to other people. Some of them might get involved, some might not, but any good company, whether it's one person or 100 people or 1,000 people, 100,000 people should have a good change management system, especially around databases.
Mm-hmm. Good advice. So one of the common themes out of many of the presentations here at the MariaDB Server Fest is migration, being migration from MySQL to MariaDB or from Oracle to MariaDB or anything. So what's your take on migration?
I've actually done a lot of migration to MariaDB. Of course, I did the first hop, MySQL to MariaDB. I also did lots of other hops. I did Sybase to MariaDB, Oracle to MariaDB. I did a Microsoft SQL server migration to MariaDB. And I jumped on board with MariaDB from 10 alpha onwards. And the two big ones for me were multi-source replication and the Connect Engine. And I actually used the Connect Engine in most scenarios, particularly when you've got these kind of older, larger legacy database systems that did become very difficult to work with. They were good back in the day, but now they've just become so awkward and obtuse to work with. One great example I had was using the Connect Engine as an authentication layer onto an old system. So our new system in MariaDB, we had a nice change management process, nice and slick, ticketed. We discussed everything every few weeks. And using the ODBC connector, we could connect to the old legacy systems. This meant that no changes were going to the legacy system. And nobody had to learn the legacy system, and we didn't have to teach anyone the legacy system. We just had a MariaDB engine looking at the old stuff until we turned it off. And we also used it for data migrations. That was good as well, just occasionally slurping data from old to new or new to old if we have to keep something in sync over ODBC. And of course, the JDBC feature is there as well now, which probably opens up even more possibilities to connect to different things and helping your migration process.
And speaking of Connect, there's a talk about that later today, isn't there?
Yeah, from Federico. I highly recommend to go see that. I'm definitely going to be watching that. I love the Connect engine. I've got a lot done with it.
So I promise to take you by surprise with a strange question. So what's the most ludicrous feature that you still recommend to be used?
If anyone's read a website online called the Codeless Code, I still think triggers are one of the most ludicrous feature. And there's a little anecdote on there about the Elephant Foot Clan, and I won't spoil it for everyone, but if anyone looks at the Codeless Code and the Elephant Foot Clan, which is the name for the database administrators, and their thoughts on triggers, and sometimes triggers can still be a real surprise, much like the init connect example I went over today. Hidden SQL or uncommunicated or undocumented SQL can sometimes be your worst enemy. But the most ludicrous feature,
are you saying that triggers are always ludicrous, that you should avoid them, and because they are so badly communicated, they are always surprising and hence no good? Is it sort of a considered evil, like go-to statements from your standpoint?
Yeah. I think that one of the most ludicrous things is often the expression, back when I was doing corporate migrations, large migrations, especially from things like Sybase, who've got their old replication server, which is very good, but it's totally closed. And I just showed people, like, what is the bin log, what's in the bin log, and how we can get events out. And they couldn't believe it. We can see everything that's changed, and we can apply it somewhere else. Yeah, the look on their face was ludicrous when they saw how easy it was to just see every change that happened on every server. Even just pick those bin logs up, put them somewhere else, and play them. And to some other systems, that's just impossible.
So that's a very positive, ludicrous feature.
Yeah, they just look at you and they shake their heads. I can't believe we could do that. It's so simple. So simple.
So speaking also of migrations, we had a chat today with Sveta Smirnova about migrating from MySQL. And the key takeaway there seemed to be do it up until MySQL 5.7. Then you will have fewer tiers. Is that your opinion as well?
Yes and no. I think it depends on your data model. I recently helped a friend get off MySQL 8. I think he just, him and his team were just a little fed up with how much change was coming their way, and it was kind of put into the user space rather than into optional. Because a lot of the new stuff we're releasing in MariaDB is something you have to turn on, or you have to go to specifically to get it. So there's lots of new things, like column store being integrated is fantastic, but you have to go get it. They were using the JSON data types, and we still store it as long text, which is just so simple. So that was just those few extra humps that were coming up there. They'd already kind of adjusted tooling to have some slightly different syntax when producing some SQL commands. We've kept it all the same. So we've introduced, I dare say, far more extra features of complexity, some really good stuff, but you have to go get it. You have to go turn it on. And I think that's good that we kind of just hide it. There's still plenty of people who are just installing the LAMP stack and they just want to continue as normal. That's how I started on the LAMP stack back in 2003, 2005. And I know that I can just kind of turn on MariaDB and just kind of get on with it. And isn't that what people want?
I think so. So final question. We have less than a minute left. So you're sort of giving consolation to people weeping with MySQL 8, and you're saying it's not over yet. You can migrate off MySQL 8 without tiers. Is that true?
I think so. Just pay attention to your schema and your data model. I'm more of a Python guy, so I would kind of sit in that kind of agnostic sort of area for tooling, just to kind of pull in, pull out, and push somewhere else. And again, I could use the Connect engine just to hop over quite easily. So that, I mean, the Connect engine would just make it so easy anyway. And of course, you can just jump through the replication hoops if you want and do the switchover like that. It all still works.
Excellent. Thank you. Really great presentation, Richard Bensley. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Enjoy the Server Fest, everybody.